holes and what.
I think the problem is two spots.
Those spots were on top.
Ours were too,
Yeah.
right under the top.
And this was with Florida Pest Control. And they refused to take it away because they said it was around up.
That's where the
I know.
They had no.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I mean, I know it seems like, at least like with the Mapmobile stuff, it's really the HUD's where we have wiggle room just inherently because, you know, usually they're asking you to do something beyond regulations, and so we can ask them to do something beyond regulations. But I just don't know where that line is still. And here's my question too, where, you know, like, okay, so usually the parking space is based on, you know, whatever it says.
How are you? There's the boss lady.
How are you today? We have 41 or whatever. You know, so it's like with the
Jay
hotel,
is not
it's like we have spaces, we have 1,600 spaces for that.
Come on, Miss Shirley.
I'll check it. I think I have the same.
I don't know what
Can just read what I'm supposed to read.
These chairs.
Like a beach. For who?
Right, what do you say about 15 minutes on 4 applications?
I know she would.
I know, but in the interim.
I hope you just said she's a pain and she's pestering everybody and she's freaking out. You should have.
I know.
Yeah. I was like, all of a sudden I had a date. I knew I just needed to call the matching person.
In terms of, you know, internal sidewalk, like, okay, again, like, if I'm at Boulevard and, you know, we have dinner there and then I want to go to Petco, there's no sidewalk. It could have been incorporated into a little green space.
Oh,
And
Jay's
just have a
We still have
parking exit, but
And Carlos
as it
is
stands
not
now,
here,
you just
so
have
I
to
guess
walk to the
today
parking
I
lot.
get to be.
And it's just
boy.
it's like those
That's not
things. It's like,
Yeah, you got the gavel, right? That's right, that's all that
I'll tell
matters.
you what, it would have been helpful too.
Application
And I think that would have been, you know, it's like, okay, like, okay.
Yep, yep, yep. And on the back, too.
Yeah. I mean,
They got some concerns, or this particular resident does.
yeah, I guess my main concern is being consistent with being like, yeah. But and then, you know, I guess the Jennifer White, I guess I didn't see at the time she was going to be called on because, you know, her concerns are just line of sight, you know. But it sounds like, at least with some of the landscaping, that there will be a measure. It's just hard to tell because we didn't even get that. Because the public, so it's nice because we're able to say, okay, and they're putting, you know, this buffer. I guess that's why I like clarification on too, is, you know, where and what should, you know, but. Yeah, I know less than I don't know.
I don't know.
I think he was talking about this actually Saturday or Thursday. Just the idea of
Yes, I did.
design.
I'm sorry. Oh, no.
It's a short agenda today, though. I think the only thing we have is, we got feedback on that road one. Yeah, the questions of lot size and character.
Being revised, so are they just, it's not enough information. Basically, it'll have to be
All right.
next street.
I don't believe for
Carla is back. Staff is recommending approval.
Nothing here, dude.
I'm okay.
We're gonna do something like that.
This particular neighbor, resident,
I need something for
consistent with Magnolia Golf.
They've moved us around a little bit.
This is the holdover one. Sticky wicket. And there's a email on it.
Those are the good staffs that think about all these issues.
So they're still. Actually, I think I saw this one. I think they sent it to Gina. Yeah, no, I think it's the same one they sent to Gina. She forwarded.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the September 1st meeting of the Mobile City Planning Commission. I'd like to take a moment to review our general operating procedures. Our meeting is divided into two sessions, the public hearing session and the deliberation session. In the public hearing session, an application or group application on the agenda is called. The applicant makes his or her presentation. Commission members ask questions, if any, and members of the public make their comments. Only 4 people may speak for an agenda item and 4 against. Each speaker is limited to 5 minutes, subject to questions by the commission. After 4 minutes, a loud beep will indicate 1 minute left to speak, and at this point, please summarize your comments. After all opposition speakers have finished, the applicant will be given time to respond. If you do intend to speak, please come to the podium, speak into the microphone, and give your name and address for our minutes. Please direct all comments to the commission only and not to the applicant or the audience, and please remember to speak directly into the microphone. Okay. I just want to, sorry. I just want to make sure that everyone is aware the Planning Commission is an advisory body on all zoning matters. The final decision is made by the City Council at a later date. If you're interested in the outcome of any zoning matter, check with the Land Use Officer or the City Clerk's office for the date on which the Council will consider the application. The Planning Commission does, however, make the final decision regarding subdivisions, planning approvals, and planned unit developments unless an appeal is taken. We will ask anyone addressing the commission to state your name and address for the record. I will now call the roll. Mr. Watkins, Mr. Gant, I'm Jennifer Denson, I'm here. Mr. Vallis?
Here.
Mr. Doyle? Here. Mrs. Sessions?
Here.
Ms. Andrews?
Here.
Mr. Amberger?
Here.
Ms. Rich?
Here.
Mr. Hembry?
Here.
Ms. Latham? Mr. Cameron? Okay. We will now move into the deliberation portion of our first session. And our first application is it's a holdover, the west terminus of Nicholas Drive North, Subdivision 2016-00074. This was a holdover. Is the applicant here? Are you in agreement with the staff recommendations? Is there anyone, does the commission have any questions for the applicant? Is there anyone here that would also like to speak in favor of the application? All right, is there anyone here that would like to speak in opposition to the application? Yes, ma'am. You may come to the podium.
Good afternoon. My name is Marilyn Way. My husband and I reside at 7010 Medina Court in the Legend subdivision of Magnolia Grove. We are here in opposition to Mr. Rosen's subdivision on the grounds that it does not appear to be going to represent design standards that are similar to the existing homes in our neighborhood. His lot size is way too dense. The average lot size in our subdivision is 11,200 square feet, and he has lot sizes that are primarily under 8,000 square feet indicating much smaller home sizes as well. Our homes are all above 2,200 square feet. We live on streets that have predominantly side-loading garages. We are unaware if his development will even have garages on these very narrow lots. And if there are, it would appear that they would not be side-loading, which is considered to be a desirable attribute. So again, without knowing anything about the exteriors of these buildings, the density appears much too dense. The lots are too small. No sidewalks are indicated. Sidewalks are in all of our Magnolia Grove neighborhoods. We specifically oppose a sidewalk waiver if one is requested. We also object on the grounds that funneling more traffic through the sole ingress-egress point, which is an extension of Nicholas Drive North, funnels all the traffic down Legends Row, which is the main street in our subdivision. Turn left, you go down Magnolia Road Parkway, Grove Parkway to Moffett Road, which is a winding, hilly road that was never constructed for more than anything a scenic entryway into Magnolia Grove Golf Course. You turn right, you can go through the golf course itself, where golfers cross the road on foot and by golf cart, where very frequently we encounter golf maintenance personnel on slow-moving vehicles traversing that road. And then it funnels out to Lamplighter Lane through, you actually have to cross an unguarded active railway and then go down a road that isn't even striped for lanes and has no curbs, and then onto Lamplighter Lane, which intersects with Schillinger Road North, recently 4-laned. We take our lives in our hands every time we try to get across Schillinger Road, which will be an unsignalized intersection. We think it is totally irresponsible to allow the funneling of any more traffic. We believe that Mr. Rosen should not be linked to our subdivision by Nicholas Drive North, that he should consider an entrance through another Rosen family member's property to the north onto Grand Road West, or to the rear, the westernmost northwestern corner of his property also intersects a road which is not finished, but could be finished and also provide access to Moffett Road and not down Magnolia Grove Parkway, which is almost unusable for us as residents of the existing communities who want to bike or walk, because it has no sidewalks, is heavily forested, it's narrow and windy. It is not suitable for increased traffic. For those reasons, we oppose the subdivision and urge the Planning Commission to deny the application. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Way. Does anyone have any questions?
A question for staff. Is the site landlocked other than the access off Nicholas Drive?
It does not abut any other public rights of way.
Okay.
So Nicholas Drive at this time is the only option in terms of getting access to a public street.
Okay, so it is, so Nicholas Drive is platted to connect to it?
Yes, but I should also point out, and traffic engineering has noted this in their comments, that there still is a centerline alignment issue that must be resolved before the plat can be recorded.
Okay. Thank you.
I have a question. May I ask? It's actually to traffic engineering, because of the lack of aligning and getting that 50-foot right-of-way. If, in looking at the subdivision now, there's 17 lots. Do you anticipate that in order for the roadway to align appropriately, that there would have to be less lots carved into the property and more in standard with what's already down the?
I have not looked at the specific details, but it could all happen adjacent to the common area, so it may affect possibly the size of the common area. And it may end up being that the roadway is not centered in the right-of-way until it is transitioned to where it can be in the center of the right-of-way. That's where my concern is that the straight extension of the existing roadway, if you drew just a straight line, it does not line up with the center of the right-of-way that's proposed.
And are you comfortable pursuing that, subject to approval? Is that something you?
Yes,
okay.
yes. We'll ask the engineer to give us just at least a horizontal alignment of the roadway before we'll sign the plat.
Bert, if you would clarify for us, this is in the city limits, correct?
That is correct.
All right, and regarding the sidewalk there, I don't see where a sidewalk waiver has been submitted.
It has not, and typically the way then that this would be handled is when each individual lot comes in to be developed, the applicant is asked if they will build a sidewalk or not. They can say no and pay $25 for a review. Staff will review it, and in this case, we would see, as you can see on the aerial, that it connects to a road with sidewalks, so we would recommend denial of a sidewalk waiver request. So they would then be required to build a sidewalk.
So each individual lot would be required to submit a sidewalk waiver in order to not have to have a sidewalk.
In order to request that they not have one,
Right,
but in this
if that were
case,
to- right,
there's no justification for it, really.
I agree.
I have a question, and it involves sidewalks, since that's what we're talking about right now. If it's platted out to make the road work, and it's possible, and still keep all 17 lots, are we creating the hardship of not putting in sidewalks, and therefore out of character with the rest of the neighborhood?
I don't believe that we would be creating that hardship in that the city has become more flexible in where sidewalks can be built, whether it's all in the right-of-way or whether it goes on to private property. So we would still be able to get a sidewalk in regardless.
Or could we require the sidewalk be constructed by the developer for the common area so that it would be that connectivity, you know, to lot 17 that would eventually connect to the next lot in the existing subdivision?
Yes, you can do that.
In the character, in hearing the resident who's very familiar with the area, was the staff aware of the change in character out of an entire subdivision? I know this is its own subdivision, but it's utilizing the entry and a street that's already part of a known subdivision that basically is cul-de-sac. So their intent was not to live on a through street where we would be approving this, and plus the lots are out of character. Was there a way to get these lots more in the size and character?
The lots meet the minimum requirements of the subdivision regulations, which is what staff is bound by. The Nicholas Drive was built to be extended onto this property, whether it was through the Magnolia Grove developer or by a future purchaser. In terms of the staff ability to make any changes to what has been submitted, other than meeting minimum requirements, we can't address really the lot size issue or the house size issue, of course.
And the minimum requirements,
It's 7,200 square feet.
right, okay, and each of those 17 lots squeak by and make it,
Yes.
correct? None of them are being waived the minimum standards, because we've done that sometimes. The map of Mobile talks about character, integrity, stability of a neighborhood, and since, I mean, I think you know where I'm gonna be going, but,
Well, these
I
are
won't
single-family
elaborate.
homes being built next to single-family homes, so.
I hear you.
As I look at the plat of the adjacent subdivisions and the proposed one, it looks like the cul-de-sac lots are similar in size and dimensions, but it looks like the ones along the straight section might be 5 feet narrower and maybe 10 feet shallower. So I mean, that helps you to visualize the difference. That's what I see when I compare the 3 different plats there.
I think we also still have some folks that might want to speak about the application. Is there anyone else that wants to speak in opposition to the application? Ms. Gregory?
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
I probably don't need to introduce myself, but for the record, I will. I'm Gina Gregory. I'm president of the Mobile City Council. I represent the area in Magnolia Grove where this proposal is being heard today. And I have been contacted by members of the Homeowners Association in the Legends, and they are very concerned about this proposal in front of you today, and I share those same concerns. While I understand and I support the property owner's desire to develop his property and to make a profit, I also support the current homeowner's desires and rights to live the way they intended to live when they bought into this subdivision, and also to protect their existing home values and their ways of life. It's all important. You know, the lot sizes in the Legends neighborhood of Magnolia Grove are large. If you've driven out to Magnolia Grove, all of the neighborhoods in Magnolia Grove have large subdivisions. The courtyards, the very first neighborhood that you see when you come into Magnolia Grove, are a little smaller. They're more, not a patio home, but they're smaller lots with 2 stories and that sort of thing. But they are well buffered from any other subdivision out there. So the lot sizes that we are looking at, except for the proposal, are very large, larger than 1,300 square feet, with homes that are much larger than 2,000 square feet. But the proposal that we're looking at has smaller lots, generally 5,000 or 6,000 square feet less than what's normal, and they want to build smaller homes, 17 of them, as a matter of fact. 17 smaller homes that will abut right next door to these homes that currently exist on Nicholas Drive. You know, current residents bought their homes in the Legends with the idea that their neighborhoods would retain the characteristics that they bought into. Their homes are leafy, they have trees, they're pleasant, most of them have side entry garages, and that's just not going to be possible when you start building this number of smaller homes right next door. Residents fear that the developer, and you've heard this, intends to shoehorn in as many homes as possible on this small acreage, shaving them down in lot sizes to barely accommodate a home, much less any of the trees or side entry garages that we see throughout Nicholas Drive North. The proposal is inconsistent with the abutting Legends subdivision. It doesn't allow for any of the continuity of characteristics that are already there. The difference will be clearly discernible. Drive out there and look. I did. I wanted to make sure. All of the homes are large. Go right into where the Rosen subdivision is planned at that cul-de-sac, and you build smaller homes right next door. It's going to be obvious to everybody. There will be no buffer, no nothing. One of the ladies here from the Legends mentioned, you know, leave the cul-de-sac as it is, bring in a new road so that they would have a buffer. That would take care of the problem right there. You know, it's also confusing to me when I looked at the staff report that they would recommend the subdivision with 1.5 pages of conditions, including, but not in the least, the fact that the city requires 50 feet of right-of-way, but yet this revision still has 38 feet. And in K, in number 7 of the conditions, there's mention of sidewalks. We've gone through that, the mention of sidewalks and possible waiver, and Bert said that more than likely no waivers would be allowed since there are already sidewalks in the Legends. But just the mention that you could have a waiver of sidewalks in the subdivision where there are already sidewalks throughout, I think sends little shivers of fear through the neighbors who live there. And that sounds like the buzzer for me. Do I have another minute or is that it? Yeah, okay. Again, you've heard the homeowners, you know, they protest this subdivision as revised. I know it's been held over once. If the Planning Commission still deems that this is approval to do, then it should not be linked to this particular subdivision at all. You've got to look at the homeowner's rights. They are just as important as the developer's rights. And I can assure you, if this had come to the council meeting, I would have opposed it, and I would have been able to get the votes from my council members to oppose it as well. So I thank you for listening, and I do hope that you will consider what these homeowners who currently live there feel and help them out a little bit. Thank you.
I'd like to ask the staff about the idea of another road. Is that a feasible concept? Is that possible?
What's that thing? Is that just dirt?
Well, you can't see it very well on this map, but there's a possibility to connect to the north, which would allow this area to connect into this subdivision, which then has one point of access to another subdivision, which takes it up to Moffett Road. A road could be built to come down and connect back into the Magnolia Grove development, which obviously would not solve the concerns that have been expressed. I am not sure that this property is under the same ownership as this, so this developer would have to negotiate with an adjacent property owner and bring that property in through the subdivision process as well to create the right-of-way necessary to make any other connection.
mean, I know we're here talking about property owners' rights for the subdivision, but and it's not the developer's rights, but the existing property owner has a street stub intersecting with his property. And we're trying to explore options to get access to his property from somewhere where right-of-way doesn't exist currently. To me, that just seems outside of what we've ever done at this planning commission from a subdivision standpoint. He has a street stub that intersects with his property, and he wants to connect his property to that existing street stub. I don't know what more we need to explore.
Well, in a minimum lot size of, as stated in the staff report, of 7,269 square feet allows for a house footprint of 2,500 square feet, and that's just a ground floor footprint.
Can the staff explain the 30, why the right-of-way is dropped down to 38 feet? Is it, I think I understand, but can you explain that?
The
for sake?
previous plat that was submitted showed that there was an alignment issue right here where this area of where the right-of-way from the existing street to the proposed street would only be 38 feet in width. And I thought we had resolved that in the revision.
Okay,
And
I
it's
think,
50 feet now, it's not 38 feet.
okay, it is 50,
feet.
so where it touches the property line is in fact 50
I asked Bert
feet.
before the meeting, because I was confused, I guess, and they verified that this revised application has a 50-foot right-of-way as shown on
Yeah.
there.
So the circular, right-of-way line, at some point, it goes perpendicular out there, and so there's a, if we look on that plat for that subdivision, it'll show a 50-foot,
Yes.
50-foot stub. And the second question, kind of along those same lines, was Nicholas Drive, I mean, this extension, was the whole subdivision not part of a bigger master plan? Or was it ever part of a bigger master plan that would have showed this extension at some point? Because it just would seem that there was some planning that was done with that right-of-way being stubbed out. I mean, it would just seem like that may have been the intent of the initial development.
Well, there was originally an overall master plan, and I'm not sure, however, if the Roseland site was included in that or not. But as shown on the plat that was revised and provided to us, the right-of-ways now align so that there's no offset as had originally been proposed. And it does show that the right-of-way for Nicholas Drive does appear to allow for an extension onto this piece of, yes.
I have a question. If I could ask a question, Sept, thank you. On the other lots, how many of them just meet minimum standards in the legends?
I don't have an answer for that. We don't have those files down here with us either.
In trying to keep the character, that would be good information for the planning commission to have. I get the sense from the resident that these smaller ones are totally out of character. And we do talk about stability, what people expect, and how to make something, if it's gonna connect, be very similar. I think that we owe that, as Council President Gregory has already articulated, so.
Now, I will say, we've approved other subdivisions where there's mixed lot sizes that are in character to the subdivision. Heron Lakes, for instance, which I was a part of, you come through and you have small lots, and then you adjoin larger lots, and then they have estate lots in the back. So I mean, I don't think having a lot mixture of sizes, necessarily creates something that's not out of character. I mean, I don't think every lot has to be the same size for a subdivision to have character.
I guess my question would be then, does the Mapmobile change that, because, the Heron Lakes, that was done a while ago, right?
Yeah, but I mean, I think you could develop a new subdivision today and you'd have mixed lot sizes. I mean, and I don't think the Mapmobile would restrict that or prevent that.
I have a question for the staff. Would you be able to speak just generally about the character without having the specific lot size information for the adjacent properties?
Well, it has been a while since I have been out there, but they are single-family homes. Typically, most of them are single-story. though not all of them are. D.R. Horton has taken over the development of the remainder of the area down here and has been building this area out with a mixture, I believe, of single-story and two-story homes. That had originally at one time been proposed, I believe, to be a hotel associated with a golf course, but that plan fell through, I think, due to the economy. So,
Bert, what was the name of the subdivision we just recently approved after the map of Mobile at Airport and House Ferry? It had all different lot sizes. But you know which one, the big one we just approved in the last 60 days?
I can't remember.
You mean the one from last time that had the duplexes?
No, Airport, you go past Airport, past the airport, and like out there at House Ferry on your right, we approved a very large subdivision.
That would have been, though, out perhaps in the county,
Okay.
I believe.
I have a question for fire, please. How do we reconcile the number of lots with the access point coming in off of, right at Champion Run, coming into Legends Road? From that intersection there coming in, that's the only access. So how do we,
He and I discussed that before the meeting also.
yeah,
He brought it to the staff's attention today, and he just looked, I wasn't not speaking for him, but he looked over at me when you started asking that question. But he and I discussed it, and my interpretation of the law is that there are two access points to this subdivision off of Magnolia Grove Parkway. We can't require every cul-de-sac or every street to have two access points. As long as the subdivision has two or more access points, which this one does, then it's my opinion that that meets the intent of that fire code ordinance.
Ma'am, did you want to speak? Are you,
They can have two more, right?
we can have two more speakers. Sir, would you like to come to the podium and speak?
My name is Richard Saladonia, and I'm at 2570 Trophy Court. And I can only speak for my personal concerns and my wife's personal concerns. But I'd like to say that Ms. Way and Ms. Gregory more than adequately addressed my concerns and some of my neighbors that I've talked to. I would have to oppose this simply because, as it's stated here, it's one way in, one way out, but it would be drawing upon the prestige of our neighborhood, approaching it, and as it's laid out, it's not in keeping with our neighborhood. The proposed lot size, the minimum lot size requirement is less than half of the rest of our neighbors, myself included. Personally, I have 202 feet of fence line on the southwest, southeast corner of that proposal that would impact our property. And it appears to me that this appears to be a transition parcel between more expensive homes in the area, and that this parcel should definitely at least align with our neighborhoods to the south of that. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
How many, sir? That's okay.
Go ahead.
How many homes are on your cul-de-sac total? I'm trying to count.
Yeah,
Can somebody,
I'd say there's gotta be 13 or 14 of us, maybe 15,
okay. I was thinking there weren't that many looking at that, but.
yeah.
She meant on the cul-de-sac, not
On
on the
your
entire
cul-
street. So it looks like you have 3 or 4.
We're on Trophy Court to the south of
Right,
that.
but the block, and including the cul-de-sac.
Oh, he's on the
10? 10,
Oh, I see what you mean.
yeah,
Yeah,
Mhm.
I only have 4.
okay, that's significant, thank you.
But we don't know if the length of the street's the same from Champion to Main Street.
I have been looking at the map on GIS online, and it does look like that there are a few lots, not very many, but a few lots as part of the cul-de-sacs. An example would be this lot here, and then there's another one on the next cul-de-sac down, and those are, they appear to be about 8,000 square feet in size. So there are a few examples, but for the most part, Ms. Davis has pointed out that the lots are at least 10,000 square feet in size.
Is there anyone else who wants to speak in opposition to the application? Did the commission have any more questions? With the app,
I have one question. Is this premature? Are we permitted to know who the builder is?
we don't have that information. Who is the builder? We don't have that information. Would the applicant like to make any comments?
Good afternoon. My name is Connie Moran, and Jack Rosen is my husband.
Oh, ma'am, could you give us your address, please?
Yes, it is 206 Washington Avenue, Ocean Springs, Mississippi, 39564.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to reassure everyone, and just a little background, I am the mayor of Ocean Springs, Mississippi, and we are known as a very beautiful, historic home, residential area and historic downtown. I really understand everyone's concerns, and as mayor for the last 11 years, we hear the same types of issues and concerns that are being discussed here today. I can also say that since Hurricane Katrina, we have worked with new types of subdivisions that do have different size lots, and the fear that the value or real estate value will go down it's unfounded, in particular because if you can have a smaller home but built in such a way and two-story that the square footage value of that home is even higher than some of the larger homes on larger lots. We're finding that people don't like to have larger lots anymore. As we all get older, they don't want to take care of larger lots. But I can assure you, we already have been looking at star builders in this region and plans for architects throughout the Southeast that would make you proud. And I can tell you that if my husband's going to build anything, it's going to reflect on Ocean Springs as well. So I am very, very astute to having something that will reflect the quality of the existing neighborhood and will maintain its value on a square foot basis. So just to let you know, we are very interested in building something on Jack's property that will make everyone proud and the neighborhood proud. Thank you.
Thank you. Does the commission have any more questions? Okay, thank you. We'll move to the next application, new subdivision applications, 7080 Airport Boulevard and 171 Cody Road South. Are you in agreement with staff recommendations? Yes, sir. The applicant's here and is in agreement. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak for the application? Anyone to speak against the application? Okay. Number 3, 7200 McDonald Road and 8358 I-10 Service Road. In agreement with the staff recommendations? Okay. Is anyone here to speak for? Is there anyone here to speak against this application? Moving on to number 4, 1814 Hunter Avenue and 163 Kennan Street. Applicants here are in agreement with staff recommendations. Anyone to speak for or against the application? Okay. We will now move into our, what's the word I'm looking for?
Executive.
Deliberation session.
Executive
Sorry about that. No, we just did the deliberation. Now we're in the final decision.
Yeah, executive.
We're in the right spot.
Whatever.
Going back to west terminus of Nicholas Drive North, the application is recommended for tentative approval, subject to staff conditions. Is there a motion?
I'm going to give a 2 cents worth with, again, without saying what you should or shouldn't do. There's a fine line between, I know, I've been on in y'all's chair before as a planning commission member. There's a fine line between looking at the law and listening to the neighbors and opposition and want to do what makes everybody happy. We've lost 2 appeals in the last few months, one from the Board of Adjustment, one from this planning commission, where the court overturned the decisions of those boards because the decisions were based on emotions and opposition. I just want to make sure that you look at what the law is and base your decision on what the subdivision regulations say, and that alone, please. But like I said last time, we're involved in several lawsuits right now. It's nobody's fault. That's the nature of the game. But just make sure you're looking at the law and not listening to emotions when you make these decisions. Thank you.
Is there a motion?
Move to approve based on staff recommendations. Thomas, would you amend that to include the sidewalk in the common area?
Yes, amended to include developer built sidewalk at the common area.
I'll second.
Is there any further discussion?
Yes. And I appreciate the commentary from our legal counsel, and know that it's said to educate this commission. The idea of the map of Mobile is very exciting for the city of Mobile for the first time in, well, ever in recent times, to see the understanding that the community could sit down and know that they're part of the equation, because they deserve to be part of the equation. Their greatest investment is their home or their business, and it needs to sustain. I certainly appreciate the mayor from Ocean Springs speaking on behalf of the development, and certainly she is acutely aware of how the community likes to see their residential characters come to fruition. As a council member, you try to bring people together at the beginning of an application, and I don't know whether that was available or any kind of advocacy through the planning staff with the council person who represents the area, or introductions. Certainly a lot of the emotion could be dealt with prior to even the applicant coming to the planning commission, and I've found those to be most successful when those kind of dialogues and communication go on. It's very, very helpful. I do struggle with the fact that to me, that looks like a cul-de-sac. Yes, there is a stub, but most people are not looking at that. They basically knew they were on a cul-de-sac development like the other cul-de-sac developments that are part of their subdivision, their association, their community. And that personality has been developed, and they know each other well, and they expect the character to continue throughout the subdivision. And I don't see those 17 lots as keeping in character when you look at what's there. And yes, some people want to fuss with yards, some people don't, but that's the character of that subdivision. And it brings the stability and the sustainability and the long-term success. I can't stress enough that the staff, when they know something is coming into an area that's already established, to please let the council person know, or let the developer know how they can meet ahead of time. It's a win-win for everybody. Because when residents don't know who the builder is or what the construction will look like, because this planning commission does not get into those economics at all. But they have a right to know that because they have invested their investment there, and they want it protected, and the city in a way owes them that. So we're not waiving any standards, and I was concerned that we were, because certainly then this commission would have a lot of ground to stand on. But since they're not technically substandard and we're waiving them, I know the planning commission has to look at the letter of the law for the subdivision. But, you know, it's just, for me, it's more of a discussion that needed to take place prior to this exposure. So anything that staff can do would be great. Thank you.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
I have a question, and I think it's for the staff or maybe the attorney, but regarding, I guess, what the planning commission can and cannot do, can we, I mean, to what extent can we consider some of the character-based recommendations in the map for Mobile? And also, in the current subdivision regulations, is there anything that speaks to using the idea of character as a justification for making a decision?
I would say that based on legal precedent, the following the minimum standard requirements as laid out in the subdivision is what staff has been directed to follow. It's, while there is discussion in the subdivision regulations as it relates to lot size, natural features and things like that, in many cases it has come down to the point, does the application meet the minimum standards? Then that is the only legal leg that the staff has really had to stand on in the past. And
Other than safety and health with
right.
subdivision.
And because of that, and in the fact that sidewalks are required under the subdivision regulations within the city limits, you know, this will connect to an existing residential neighborhood. It will be composed of single-family homes of a value that we do not know. It is possible that they could be more expensive homes, or they could be less expensive homes, of course. And it meets the standards that we have to guide ourselves with. The map for Mobile does provide, I believe this would be a suburban neighborhood, and it encourages connectivity, which is going to happen with this. You know, there's really nothing else that staff can do to look at this. Now, in terms of future interaction between a developer and the community, the department is looking at various ways to try and encourage that in the future.
Like Ms. Rich said, if y'all were being asked to waive the width to depth ratio or approve a lot that was not the minimum size, this would be a completely different situation. But we can point to dozens and dozens and dozens of lots that we have approved to subdivide where we make smaller lots in a subdivision that was larger. You can look from the Country Club of Mobile subdivision to Dolphin Island Parkway, and just dozens of applications have been approved in a situation like this. You know, size of the lot and character of the neighborhood is very subjective, and like the applicant said, they could build a house that's larger, more expensive than a house that's in existence in the Legend subdivision. So is it out of character? Just because the lot size is smaller does not legally mean it's out of character. So it's just and I don't think right now, well, I'm not gonna go into the map of Mobile, but like Bert said, that's the standard we've always gone by, and we've approved many subdivisions that could be considered more out of character than this.
I'd just like to add, if you were to block off the connectivity, I think that would go against everything that Map for Mobile stands for. You want connectivity, you want that pedestrian ability to be able, so to actually cut down the connection would go against what we're trying to promote.
Yeah, and I wasn't suggesting that. I was really kind of just thinking about the idea of lot size and comparable lot size. I understand the importance of connectivity.
I have a question about the sidewalk because of what Bert had mentioned, Mr. Hoffman had mentioned, that the city now allows sidewalks to go on private property to create that connectivity. What if the person who buys that lot refuses to give up and create a right-of-way, and the city has to go to condemnation to keep that connectivity, wouldn't it be better for the whole subdivision to lay out so that the sidewalks were appropriately placed, even if it means one or two less lots?
I know that in the construction of the sidewalks in the village of Spring Hill, they have not been able, to my understanding, to get all of the sidewalks to be on public right-of-way. They have had to work with property owners to get them on private property.
But are they required, or does the city then say, in order to create that connectivity, we will buy your property and
To
make
that, I
sure that
can't
happens?
answer since I haven't been involved in a specific process. But in this case, you know, they would have to provide justification, and if staff denies their request, they can still make an appeal to the planning commission regarding the sidewalk waiver.
Right, but are we creating an automatic hardship that the lot does not, it would take too much of the private property to get that connectivity because of the sizes of the lots? Are
I
we
believe
helping
that's
to
not the
create
case.
that problem?
At this point, no, we're not creating that problem. It's speculation as to whether or not they will have enough room in the right-of-way to build it. And I would say that we're not going to approve the construction of the street, that is the city, between engineering and traffic engineering, if there are not sufficient room to put in the public sidewalk as is required by the regulations.
So wouldn't it be best to have a tentative drawing that basically put that to rest by virtue of having the proper rights of way?
We do not, we have the proper rights of way. It's just not aligned in terms of the center line of the road.
There's nothing in the drawings that have been submitted to us that would tell us that the sidewalks couldn't be constructed like any other city standard neighborhood that's constructed. In the case of those private situations you asked about, we generally continue to work with the neighbors until hopefully that gets resolved. Sometimes the nonprofit groups will work with them, and it's just it's a back and forth
Yeah,
thing.
but these are private lot owners coming in one at a time, if I'm hearing how you anticipate this. So,
No, I think what happens at the time of the construction of the homes, the sidewalks get built. That's how it works in
Well,
all subdivisions.
In this case, since it is not a planned unit development,
right,
each individual house is evaluated for whether or not they're going to build a sidewalk. And the process that we currently have in place, and this may be changing soon, is that they are asked if they will provide a sidewalk. They have the option of yes or no. If they choose not to, then staff reviews the request, and if we find that there are other sidewalks in the neighborhood and on the street, we're going to say that their sidewalk waiver request is denied. And then they can appeal that to the planning commission.
And if it's still denied, they won't get a CO or a building permit until it's constructed?
Until the sidewalk is built.
That's correct.
And typically, the first thing that's done is a land disturbance permit is requested to build the road, to put the infrastructure in and the drainage system.
right.
At that point, we'll look at the road profile and the road cross-sections and make sure that they are showing that the sidewalk is in the right-of-way. And if we run into a problem, we'll work with them at the design stage to where that sidewalk can be located.
At any point in the prior application, did they propose not building sidewalks? Because we're spending a lot,
That has never been part of their discussion with the application.
we're just spending a lot of time on sidewalks but there's no
But it-
discussion about not building sidewalks.
But it was in the report.
It was I think it was a standard staff condition.
It's a standard
Standard
staff
condition.
note.
The sidewalk situation in this is the same as it is in every other subdivision we approve. And it's not like we're treating this one any differently.
And in my short time on the commission, I don't think we've offered too many waivers. I think the
Rarely.
commission has been very steadfast in
Not
approving
since you and
sidewalks.
Thomas have been here, we had.
I think the matter was raised by some of the neighbors in terms of the concern. I think that's where that came from in this.
But it's mentioned in the staff report, it says, the frontage of each lot or parcel at the time of new development or construction, unless a sidewalk waiver is approved. Add a note that a sidewalk is required to be constructed. And so the idea that a waiver is achievable or is talked about is on page 5 at the top.
But that's part of our standard
That's the
regulations and procedures that everyone is able to
It is their
apply
right
for.
to make the request.
But I think through the motion that's on the table right now with Thomas, requiring that the common area sidewalk be established from the beginning, that's gonna help preclude any type of waiver in the future also, because it'll just set that standard. So now as we move back to any other questions or comments, discussion? We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
All right, thank you. The the application is approved. Moving on to the new subdivision application, 7080 Airport Boulevard and 171 Cody Road South. The applicant is in agreement with staff recommendations. Is there a motion?
Move to approve based on staff recommendations.
Second.
All in favor? Or, I'm sorry, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Number 3, 7200 McDonald Road and I-10 Service Road. Is there a motion?
Move to approve subject to staff recommendation.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And the final application, 1814 Hunter Avenue and Kennon Street. Is there a motion?
Move to approve based on staff recommendations.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The only other item we have on the agenda is that there will be a business meeting scheduled for 2 p.m. on September 22nd to be held in the multipurpose room of Government Plaza.
Yes, and what we'll be doing is discussing issues such as administrative sidewalk waivers, as well, again, as I believe, the applicability of the map for Mobile again, and try and help explain how staff will handle it and how the planning commission should look at it, and Ms. Biko can address more of that.
Well, the only additional comment that I've made is you've all met and been introduced to our consultant, White and Smith, that's helping to lead our future land use update, major street plan study, as well as the zoning overhaul. He will be in town, unfortunately, the week after your orientation, but we are working very aggressively to, as was stated by Mr. Hoffman earlier, the notion of meetings with neighborhood groups prior to applications being filed, really for informational purposes to help them understand the nature of the applicant from the developer standpoint. So there's lots of work that has to be done to get that process going and right, but we'll keep you up to speed and up to date on our work and trying to get something like that moving forward. So
That's fantastic. Thank you all so much. We're adjourned.
That date again is September 22nd, right?